big contributor to the issues we have with cancer today. Not that long ago, within the last 20 years, cancer only affected 1 in 3. Oh, sorry, pardon me. 1 in 3. Now it's 1 in 2. So I believe that there's a combination of things, right? If you do global research, which I assume your friend has done, if you look in places like Japan and not China now so much, because China have caught up with the Western world, they've got fast food wherever you go. But if you go in places like China, Japan and India and some of those different places, right, their cancers are very different and they break out different cancers in different areas because of different foods, different environments, basically. So look, I'm not a doctor and I'm not a scientist, but, I look at the logic of it all. The way we live our life, we've got fast food, processed food, chemicals, as you mentioned, right, so important. Chemicals to preserve things, for 3 months at a time. It can't be good for us, can it? It can't be.
No. I guess, in terms of everything that we've touched on, I know that you are heavily involved with public speaking as well and attending conferences. And I guess what I'm trying to touch on is I've seen your voice on Twitter, and that's what got my attention. And, I know that with conferences, it's not everybody that can potentially attend a conference. So your work, I've seen that you're focused in the UK and also the US. And I'm now thinking of the global South. I would like to think they've got challenges as well. And sometimes they don't have the Wi-Fi as we do here. And South America or, Latin America, I don't know what the right terminology is now, it keeps changing. What are your plans to disseminate your knowledge to those aspects, those parts of the world, essentially?
Yeah, that's a great question. Obviously, I started as one person, and I didn't really think that I could achieve anything as one person because, we see that frequently, right? But I'm only one person. But actually, this was about life for me and improving life. And it was something that wasn't just a fad like you talk about. It wasn't a trend that came into my life and it was gone when something better came. This is about improving lives. And as technology has improved, hence we're having this, right? Let's say 10 years, you wouldn't even know who I am. No. Okay. And with hope that when we broadcast this message and it goes out, it will go out to a lot of those areas, right? That's how it sort of spreads. But I'm hoping that technology will help me. I'm hoping to increase the number of people that see my message. I've been doing my website for 12 years. There's not many people that are doing that for a start off. Mostly we have fads. That's it. People get cancer, they write about it, they diarise it, they take videos, but they move on. I haven't really moved on. I've sat with it and I try to remain relevant. And I'm talking about current stuff every day. So that's what keeps me relevant. And I'm hoping that people find it, because it isn't just a trend, as you say. So I'm hoping that, eventually my word spread. I've got a decent community now from one person, right? People are listening. And I'm hoping that will naturally spread now. I know about technology and stuff like that, but actually, if you look at things like football, for example, right, football's global, right? We all see the adverts, with people sitting in the street, they've got nothing, but they're watching football. So, it can be done, right? It can be done. And I'm hoping that my presence will increase with the speed of technology.
No, thank you very much for your response. And I guess there's something that really touched me in a positive way that you do. And it's the Simpal that you started in 2016. What prompted you to start that for a start? And secondly, in terms of the funding for that, Could you touch on that as well?
Yeah, sure. What prompted me to start it was look, I'm interested every day. I wake up, it's something new, and I'm in the age where technology. I was before technology, so I know what the power of technology, right? Yes, there's good things and bad things, but we could argue about that till the cows come home. But more and more society has become dependent on technology. Most things that happen now happen through technology. But actually, I knew that with cancer particularly, and we are extending our work, but with cancer particularly, there were a lot of people losing their jobs, unable to work. There were people, let's say, single parent families, that maybe the kid, the youngster was ill, or maybe mum was ill and had to take the youngster with her, and all sorts of, there are all sorts of scenarios that happen around cancer. And I was aware personally of the cost of keeping in touch with people. And I was approached by my partner in the project, Blair, who ran a mobile phone company, and she said, look, I've seen your work. I want to do something for cancer because it's affecting my family, but I can't get out there. You're in it. You're in the market. And then I thought, oh no, do I want to get involved with mobile phones and all this business, But actually, we did it very straightforward, and there's no red tape. We became a charity because we're the only people who do what we do in the world, believe it or not. So we get a lot of inquiries from around the world for people to set things up. But it enables people to have communication where they might not have been able to afford it, or where they don't have to worry about their bills. We do it for 6 months basically, and in many cases we've extended that help. It's not intended to be permanent help. It's intended to sort of hopefully get you through the bad times. And people on benefits and stuff like that, people on chemo. There's a lot of homeless people, for example, that have cancer. Homelessness is in some ways the least of their problems. So there's a lot of what everyone calls hard to reach communities, right? And I don't find people hard to reach if you know the community you're looking at. They're not hard to find. So basically, we give, where possible, free phones, but certainly SIM cards that will last you 6 months with everything paid on it, just to help people keep communicating.
Yeah, and I guess, looking at the current climate, which we've been told that we're going through a recession and that it might even get worse, and with the bills and everything, and, losing your job in this current situation is quite dire. I know we've got a lot of well-being, things out there. But, I think this is such an amazing cause. For example, I would look at the group, which I'll call migrant workers, whereby they've got families globally. And I think what you're doing, the fact that they can speak to their families, I think that's amazing, just going global instead of staying in the UK. So I think that's phenomenal. Like, I have no words, but amazing.
Well, that's very kind of you. I mean, it was logic really that told me where it was going. And what happened was, ironically, we don't get a lot of publicity, and actually we don't really want a lot of publicity because we're pretty much full up most of the time. People come to us directly. I've never really wanted third parties involved, simply because I prefer to deal with the user. Just makes life a lot easier.
It does, yeah.
But we don't advertise a lot. We don't get any grants. You asked us about funding. We don't get any funding from anywhere. And actually, what happened was, when COVID came along, right, that's where we found the problems, right? Not SimPower. We knew those problems existed, but that's where they were highlighted, the poverty across the country. And of course, it's getting worse now, right? So, in fact, we just did an offer for the NHS. We know I wanted to give some free SIM cards to the NHS. Anyone working within the NHS could apply. Free SIM card, 6 months, everything paid, right? Because we wanted to give something back to the people that we know nurses are struggling. We know people who clean the floors in hospitals are struggling. You know, many NHS employees are struggling. So we wanted to just give that. Maybe they wanted to give it to their kid for 6 months. You know what I mean? But we just wanted to help people.
Amazing. And now going back to the word that I love, which is funding. You know,
Funding.
I mean, you've just said there that you know the nurses, we know they were flat out, so that was a big challenge, and that's why at the moment as well we've got a high turnover where people are changing jobs to move on to other industries because they feel like they didn't spend quality time and they're burnt out. So we know in, you know, there's scholarships out there, and that, you know, for example, agriculture, farming, whichever word you use. I'm now thinking of the work that you're doing, and I think there is room and there is need for there to be funding to push and also to find solutions. And, you know, when it comes to research, we look at the root cause and we work through that. And maybe you have like 10 people researching the same thing to try and, you know, find a conclusion. Do you think, you know, it will be wise, and this is me just assuming, I don't know everything from A to Z, but do you think we need more funding to push in terms of cancer and also in terms of the communities, the families, how they're affected, and also the individuals?
I think, to be honest with you, funding is a big word, and it's often used and I find it, I'm a business guy, me, right? And actually, I did apply for funding once through my charity, and it took me about 24 hours to fill in the form. And then it was given to somebody who was going to take 2 or 3 months to look at it. And then they were going to come back to me. That's not how I work. You know, quite honestly, I've got today's problem. I need to solve it today. Funding tends to, I'm generalising here, right? In charity, you tend to need someone who's specialist at applying for funds, in which case you've got to take somebody on, right? How many of those funds you get, I don't honestly know. I see the problem, I take the shortest possible route, not always the most successful, by the way, but I'm a commercial man. I punt commercially. I'll go to a business and I'll tell them what we're doing. You won't even see me fundraising on the internet, I don't think. You won't even see me. I'm probably the worst fundraiser ever. Actually, I hate asking people for money, and I thank the Lord that we don't have the buckets anymore where people put coins in it, you know, because I hate that. I absolutely hate that. We rely on donors. We don't trade cash, fun enough, in our charity much, other than when people give it to us, because we trade expertise. So I've got people who help me with a website, right? I've got people who help me with other bits and pieces or do some stuff behind the scenes. So we don't pay in cash. Nobody who works with me gets paid. I've got no employees whatsoever. They all give their love, and because we believe that we just want to. Maybe we can do more if we've got somebody paid. You know, I'm not dissing that, but quite honestly, I'm at the stage. I'm 66 now. I'm at the stage in my life where I don't want to worry about employing staff and worrying about all the regulations of that. So I do it the quickest and simplest way to solve the problem. Funding, everyone always looks at more funding, more funding, more funding. NHS, for example, right? And look where we've got with more funding. Now we've got such a mess, it's been unbelievable. So funding helps, of course. But it takes long. It takes years of research to get that. I haven't got that time. I don't have it physically myself. I don't have that time. And nor do my people. They want it now.
Yeah.
So funding, yes, of course. Look, if you give me 100 grand, I could do more. I turn the charity pound into 100, right? A lot of charities, they turn £100 into a pound.
I guess the question that I have, you know, in terms of what you've just said there, which is I turn it into 100 and they turn it into a pound, and I understand the analogy very well, and I'm with you. I guess I'm thinking of the generations to come. have you got an action plan to say, this is what I'll leave behind? I know we need the short-term resolutions now, but then in terms of focus for future, what is the big picture? Oh, that's David Cameron's words there.
Hiss, hiss, boo, boo.
But yeah, so what is the big picture for Chris's cancer community?
Okay, the big picture is, you're talking legacy.
Yes.
I'm not sure there will be one. Legacy is going to be my book. But if we talk about charity generally, charity's changing, right? Mm-hmm. Like everything in front of us. I'm telling you, in a couple of years' time, with respect to the likes of Macmillan and all, they're already struggling.
Yeah.
Those names, the brands, right? Cancer Research, they received 90 million less last year than they received the year before. We have a cost of living crisis, right? People that traditionally would donate to named charities in or out of the cancer sector, right? Doesn't matter. Same principles, same. Oxfam, all of those, right? UNICEF, all of those people. They're fed up with brands. They're fed up with giving money into a bottomless pit that nobody really knows where that money's gone, right? And now we've got that are more regular and on the scene, food banks, food kitchens. Our needs have changed to that immediate thing. We're not now lobbying, these big charities spend millions on lobbying politicians, right?
Mm-hmm.
Forget that. The politicians aren't going to be in a job for longer than a year. What's the point, right? So there's millions of pounds that's gone into lobbying, wasted, totally wasted funds, totally wasted. Now people want to know what they're getting for their money. They want to know if they give a £5, they'll see a bag of food going out to someone at the food bank. And it's like, I know what I've done there with that £5. It's actually gone somewhere. I can see somebody benefiting. Like if I give someone a mobile phone, I've changed their life.
Mm-hmm. I've
changed their life with something that's like free to me because people donate them. So big charities changing. Big charity, there'll always be some. There has to be. There has to be something done globally. There has to be something done nationally. But it won't be anything like you won't see over time. You won't see £250,000 chief executives. You won't see all that. The society won't put up with it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't relate anymore, does it? Those people, like MPs, are too far away from what the problem is. Community is the key word now.
No, I agree. Ph.D. hard talk. Community. And I guess the last question is in regards to finding purpose. After such a life-changing event, what's your take on that, and also your advice for somebody? It doesn't have to be, related to cancer. It can be open-minded. What's your advice?
Wow. Speaking personally, it was massive. I mean, I've had a lot of changes in my life. We all have things that change. I got married, I was a single flirty lad and I got married, right? Now I've become a married flirty lad, right? Anyway, so we all have life-changing things, right? But that, I mean, when we go to work, we all like to have a purpose. That's what work is. And anyone who says to you they can't wait to retire, I think's lying. Because getting out of bed in the morning, whatever job you do, whether you're changing people's lives or whether you're just just making the street more pleasant for other people, you want to get out and you want to do that, and you want to do it to the best that you can, and you want to feel part of something, right? And when I got cancer and I knew that I couldn't do the job that I was doing, I couldn't fly off around the world and do these wonderful deals and meet wonderful people. I felt like I was nobody. I felt like I didn't exist. I still had my friends and I still had the people in the work, but of course work goes on, right? The world goes on without you. Of course it does. Nobody wants to think it does, but it does. You're not important. You're a micro of the whole world. You're just a little bit.
Yeah.
And I was upset with that because I'd always been the go-to guy. You know, people ringing me up, Chris, what do you think about that? What do you think about that? It was like non-stop. So when this came, I was like, whoa, what am I going to do? And the only thing that I could see, and I didn't have any long-term intention because I didn't have any long-term life according to the doctor. So it was just a question of filling my time. And the only thing that became obvious was helping people that had gone through what I'd gone through. It's a bit like when you go on one of them Disney rides, you go into a black hole, right? And you're not sure what the bloody hell's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
That's what happened to me. I went into this big black hole and I didn't know how I was going to come out the other side. And just by starting to help people, I'm a great believer in karma, to be honest with you. And it came back in bucket loads. And it comes back every single day on here. If you've been following me on Twitter, you'll see the comments that I get. That's beyond the private messages and all of that. I know I make a difference and I want to make a difference. And it is important for someone to find purpose. You know, my case was hopeless pretty much. Even the employment people wrote a letter to me. They said, we won't be chasing you to go back to work because we know, you know, your case is no good. So that you have to find a purpose. We all need a purpose in life, you know. And what I always say it to people, follow your dreams, really. Look, we need money to pay the bills.
We do.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Right. But life is too short. Too short. We've seen it. We see it with celebs that die. You know, we see it with our friends that die. I'm sure you know plenty of young people. I know young people that have died from different things, you know, different problems, suicides and all of these things. Right. Life's too short. You've got to be doing something you enjoy. It's important to do that. Many people are stuck in jobs that they don't enjoy, but they're trapped. They've got to pay the bills. But the positive that I saw in COVID was people started to relate their time to their money, if you like. And instead of spending time on a train, you know, all following the herd at 8 o'clock in the morning and then coming back at 5 o'clock, whoever invented that system, I don't know. They should be shot anyway, right? But now people have realised, oh, hold on a minute, I can find a bit of a life.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I could do 4 days a week. Maybe I could do every other day in the office and not every day. So now we're finally thinking more flexibly about how we can do things. But go for your dream. Go for it. And if you want to help people, believe you me, you won't be a millionaire, but you'll have a big heart.
Wow. I mean, thank you so much for your wise words. And I guess, you know, you've touched on something there, which is the work-life balance. Some businesses, I don't know if you've seen, and some CEOs, they've taken to TikTok, Twitter, and they've said, if you want to go far in life, you need to be in the workplace Monday to Friday, clock in, clock out, and go home. What's your take on that? I mean, you've touched on it, but they are really pushing to say people need to get back into the workplace because of productivity levels, and also it gives you structure and discipline.
Yeah, listen, that's a fair point. But what you have to remember is that everyone's on social media. They're not on it for the benefit of their health, particularly, right? Everyone on social media, what you have to remember is they have an agenda.
Mm-hmm.
They have an agenda. Everyone.
They do. Yeah.
Even the nice people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they come on to spread niceness, right? Kindness. So everyone on there has an agenda. And CEOs have an agenda. Of course, they've got workplaces to fill. They've got massive offices that are costing them a fortune, right? So they therefore want to see it. I've looked at that. That's an interesting thing, actually, because I've never been, obviously I've worked for myself, so I've never been stuck in the 9 to 5. I couldn't put myself in that position. But it's quite interesting because I've got a couple of boys who are, you know, they're doing well in their job. And one particularly is a manager of people. Now, he didn't have the work-life balance. He had to go into the office because he was managing people. COVID came, right? And they still get through it. He does every other day. But I'm asking myself, from seeing the old school way of working, I don't know how you get those personal skills, how you develop those, how you learn from your peers, how you learn from more experienced people if you don't go in the office frequently. I don't know, because that, look, it's earning money, yes, but there are other things, because you want to develop your skills, right? Whether they're interviewing skills, sales skills, or whatever. And really, the only way we develop as humans is with other humans. We learn what is good, what is not so good, right? What works, what doesn't work. And I'm not saying it's a 5-day week. I think those days are gone, personally speaking, and good. They should have been gone long ago, because there has to be a work-life balance. But the workplace, whether that's the right place, by the way, that's another matter. Maybe we could do things differently. But I do believe that if you're working in a team, or you're part of a team, which we all are somewhere, that we can't just be left alone just to, because we need to self-develop, which I believe only comes when you're with other people.
Interesting. I love your response, but you'll be glad to know that this is the last question.
So, I told you I can talk on any subject.
So the last question is, we've gone through your work and you agreed to come on Ph.D. Hard Talk. The question is, why did you agree to come on Ph.D. Hard Talk? Because I usually speak to professors and like Ph.D. Individuals or master students. So why is the question?
And that's why I agreed.
That's why you agreed.
Because I thought this would be interesting. This is not a cancer professor. This is not a charity CEO. This is someone who's in academia and has a broader horizon than just healthcare. Right. So that was the main reason. And secondly, that you're into a totally different area. And as you know, the way social media works is, look, you can be, if you don't spread, just talking to the same group of people every day, nothing's going to improve. You're not going to increase your followers. You're not going to have the diversity of followers that you need to develop your style, to develop your work. So for me, it's a great opportunity to get more into I love it, by the way. I like academia. I was no good at it, but I like it. I know the importance that it plays in society. It's not for me, but I understand it. That you need to spread into different areas. You can't, that we talked earlier about academia and why getting a dry subject out there is difficult, because what you see, if you and you must see it because you study social media a lot, is that if you don't go outside your comfort zone. So I look at a lot of charities, for example, and I look at who follows who on the charity. All the charity people follow each other, right? So they're not right. All people from one company, they follow each other. Or NHS, they don't, because it's NHS, it has to be safe, right? So, I'll follow all the NHS people, but you're not actually getting any variety into your conversation. You're only learning more about the NHS. And the reason you go onto social media is you want to learn other things, I guess. Maybe you don't. But it was an honour to be invited on. I'd like to say that. And you took a punt on someone that's a bit different, right? And I work hard at being different, because people remember you, for good or bad. And I'm an all publicity is good publicity man. I remember, just brief story, and you can cut it out if you want, by the way. When email first came out, right, and I thought, who the bloody hell wants to, because I've never emailed anybody before. So when it said, you must have an email address, right, I was like, okay. So I'm a Palace fan, right? And that's where Eagles comes from. Palace are known as the Eagles. And I only knew people from Palace, really, other than my business. So I thought, they always call me Chris the Eagle because I've been going there for years. So I thought I'm going to be Chris the Eagle. So I said to my missus, I said, right, I've got that email address. It's Chris the Eagle. That's very unprofessional, right? She said, you can't go with that. That's very unprofessional. I thought, sod it, I've got it now. I've registered it, so I'm going with it. And ever since then, everyone goes, oh, I know, Chris the Eagle. How did that come about? You know, they just remember. And these days it's hard to be remembered.
It is.
For a long period of time. And a long period of time is even a year these days, right? Yeah. So the fact that I've been doing it 12 years, you know, you've got to look for an edge somewhere. And I love talking about academia, actually. So it was a real honour. Thank you very much for having me.
No, thank you very much. So my viewpoint of in terms of my discourse in my head, I was thinking if we have a conversation, I'm thinking of people who are writing papers. They've got ideas from what you're saying and they can push. I know you hate the word funded, but we need funding for institutions and hopefully they will, you know, help with a better change, essentially. Be it positive or negative, I mean, that's debatable as well and subjective, but hopefully it will marry both sides, because I think sometimes we look at it from our own lenses and we don't really know what's actually happening in terms of the actual reality. And that's why I wanted to speak to you to understand what the actual reality is, because we're stuck in labs and we're stuck in the library, but we don't know what is actually going on. So that's why.
Thank you kindly, and it's interesting because I think I did a video somewhere some years ago actually, and it was about I called myself a conduit because what I could see was happening in the cancer world, and it's no different really in the rest of the world either. That there are wonderful people, scientists working in the laboratory like you're talking about, right, doing wonderful things. But as a patient, you don't see that. You know, you just go there, nothing's changed, 3-4 years, same old tablets, same old thing. You know, what's up with this system? It's not doing anything, no improvement. But actually, there are wonderful people behind the scenes doing stuff. But what I found was they couldn't communicate. Again, I come back to the dry stuff. They couldn't communicate because they're dry, right? So they can't get up on the stage and going, oh, listen here, you lot, right, we're doing all these wonderful things for you. They can't do that. It's not in their DNA to do that. So what I found that I was a conduit between the patients that go, there's nothing happening, to me going, here, Fred in Switzerland, you know, you're doing some really nice stuff. I'm going to tell them.
Yeah. No, amazing. Thank you very much for your time. It's been such a pleasure. So before we finish, at the bottom, all the details in regards to Chris's work, you can find them at the bottom of the page. And remember, hashtag project dissemination to the world and hashtag sustainable knowledge to the world. Thank you so much, Chris, for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me on. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
The pod, take it to the top one time, let's go.